Welcome to Self Wellness.
Maha, baby. It's another episode of Maha with Mike. Guys, today's going to be heavy hitting. We're going to be bringing in a mama bear who's got a vaccine injured child. And we're also going to be bringing in Dr. Peter McCullough. And we're going to be talking about some of the jibbity jabs and the side effects and what's happening with the vaccine schedule here in the United States with our young children. But before I bring on my first guest, the most bad to the bone producer, Drake, that you have ever seen, is going to roll a video for you guys, and it is going to be of the vaccine injured child, Mr. Cody, talking to RFK himself. Drake, roll that footage.
I think it's important that everyone hears what's going on, so I'm doing everything I can. Just hang in.
It's amazing that he called you.
Thank you for calling me, sir.
Thank you for your courage. So thanks for bringing the truth to people. Very, very grateful to you, Cody.
It has to be done.
Don't suffer in vain.
It has to be done. Okay.
Thank you.
We're fighting for you and you hang in there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
I'll check on you tomorrow. All right, love you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
So sad to see that, a mom was just trying to do what she thought was the right thing, and to see an injury like that. And it's probably going to be heartwarming and heart-wrenching, because I know the heartwarming part of it is that a mama bear is fighting and not backing down. The wrenching part is a child being injured. Without further delay, let's bring in Mama Bear and see how she's doing. I think they're actually going to the hospital here in a little bit. Heather, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm determined. How are you doing?
Yeah. We are blessed and highly favored, but we want to get your story out there. And, I know Cody's not doing well. And, you just said to me, you guys might even be on the way to the hospital right now. This is absolutely horrible. So walk us through what's happening. Why are you guys getting denied the life-saving treatment that he needs? And also, how special was that RFK was able to call and reach out to Cody and congratulate him on his bravery?
Yeah, okay. So what's going on today is, first of all, Cody has a medical appointment and we were headed out for that, and he just keeps telling me, Mom, I don't know if I can make it. So I'm doing this interview with my kid next to me who's telling me he doesn't know if he's going to make it. So we're doing this because it is timely. It is now. It's a humanitarian crisis, and it's being ignored in our country, and it is not just Cody. So what we're going to do today in the hospital is have them look for a blood clot in his spine. He thinks he may have a blood clot in his spine. He was left with an insidious blood clotting disorder that causes both blood clotting and bleeding at the same time. His case is peer-reviewed and published, and it is known worldwide. Despite this, and despite the fact that treatments no longer work for Cody, so he's terminally ill, there is one medication out there that can possibly save him, and it is well beyond our reach. It's over $60,000 and sometimes $80,000 a year. We applied him for Social Security disability, and despite all of this, he was denied. He's had 4 strokes. He's had a blood clot of the brain. He has severe stenosis of the brain, meaning a narrowing of the veins of his brain on the left side, and I think it's 3 or 4 regions, which is pretty significant. And he's had multiple DVTs in all 4 limbs. He's had pulmonary emboli. He's been hospitalized for that a couple of times. He has one of the worst blood clotting autoimmune disorders linked to a vaccine known anywhere. And still, we couldn't get him his Social Security disability. So I wrote a law called Cody's Law, and I guess we'll get into that in a little while, to help these people get medical care. And even though I did that and it got 4 sponsors, in the Florida Senate. Two Senate sponsors and 2 House sponsors. We could not get the bill through. It's stuck. It's languishing. Dr. Latipo's team and Governor DeSantis' team has called the vaccine injured people and their families and been in discussions behind closed doors since 2022. And more recently, they had offered to have Cody go to a press conference, but then I never heard from them again. I reached out to Governor DeSantis' office and filed a case for them to look into it because, as you know, they speak out on the dangers of the shots, and they had promised to help the vaccine injured. And despite this law being written and getting support by our legislators, for some reason we can't get it through. I met Dr. Latipo on the steps of the Capitol building last Wednesday with 100 MAHA activists and advocates, and got a promise that he would call, that he's sorry and there's something desperately wrong in Florida, and I'm determined to get through. I'm reaching out now to U.S. Congress and U.S. senators. I actually have come to the point where, I've come to know, quite a few people in positions of power, and so friends of friends, and so we're hoping to get some of these people to put a little pressure on Social Security or SSA program to help with the goals of Cody's Law, which are very simple. When people have cancer in this country, they have an expedited program called Compassionate Allowances that cuts that wait time, which is anywhere from a year to even 6 years, to get them on their disability programs. Most people are denied the claim the first time around, and that's an easy Google search. And then they have to go through an appeals process, but this should never happen for somebody who's terminally ill or severely injured. And this is what's happening to the vaccine injured.
Now, Heather, real quick, I just want to make sure that we're okay. Is Cody stable right now? Is he okay? Like, are you guys?
Yeah, I've been triaging this kid since 2021, so he's okay. He's terminally ill. He has had so many blood clots and gone through them. He's on all the medication that the hospital would put him on. What'll probably happen is they'll make him comfortable and they'll try and get him through this one if he actually is having one now.
Okay. And what state are you in right now?
Florida.
You are in Florida. Okay. I would also be very interested to know if Cody, and I don't know, obviously insurance probably wouldn't pay for it, but if we could get a GoFundMe started ASAP or even look near you where you're at in Florida. Have you ever considered doing EBU?
I'm not sure what EBU is. I'm sorry.
Okay, so EBU is it's like an energized blood oxygen ozone therapy, and I've seen people with vaccine injuries go and do this thing where they put an IV in and they take the blood out and they put it through basically like a plasma. I've seen literally huge long clots come out of people when they're doing this therapy, and I don't think it's very, very expensive. That might be very beneficial for Cody. But I just wanted to make sure that he was okay, like stable, because I know you said you were on your way to the hospital, and I didn't want to. This interview is not as important as his life. So as long as he is stable and he's okay and you're comfortable to continue, it's just been sitting heavy on my heart. I even just asked my producer. I was like, should we stop the show?
Well, honestly, I think the world needs to be woken up, and they need to see what the families are going through, what daily life is like for us. They're not living it. The senators, the politicians don't know, and it's going to take huge public outcry to get this done. It's a very simple ask, and Cody's not going to get any long-term help if we don't get this kind of public outcry and media. Cody, are we good to go?
I'll die before the message does. So.
he says I'll die before the message does. So meaning this message has to get out.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'll be okay through this. Thank you for asking.
Okay,
That's
and Drake, I think we have some pictures that Heather sent in because I really want the public to understand, where this has taken, and if we can, real quick, Drake, see if you can pull up some of those photos just so we can share it with the audience to see some of, there's Cody in the hospital bed. Walk us through what we're looking at, Heather.
So it's very rare for people to have blood clots in all four limbs and be able to live through it. He had multiple blood clots in all four limbs, and he's hospitalized there, getting treatment. And here is when we realized that he became treatment resistant, meaning that he's having blood clots even though he's fully anticoagulated. And it was hitting Cody that he was terminally ill right there in that picture. This is showing his arms. His skin just spontaneously opens and bleeds. It can also happen in his lungs where he just starts coughing up blood, or on his face that it'll just start bleeding. It's, like I said, it's an insidious disease.
I have an ulcer on my chest right now.
This is more bleeding just taking place at the hospital. And, part of the problem that we're experiencing is if you look at the congressional report, there's 17 pages, the House Select Subcommittee on Coronavirus, and it explains that these people are, my words are marginalized. I believe theirs are alienated, and they're essentially treated like what they're saying isn't true. And so when you go into the medical centers, there's a lot of trying to get help that doesn't take place. And right there where you see Cody's, he's in the hospital and he's got blood, and they're saying, well, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something else. And his blood clotting disorder, if you look it up, thrombocytopenia is it can happen in the most severe cases. And so, his blood tests show that his platelets are low, which is thrombocytopenia, and they always want to keep looking for some other answer. Instead of heading it right on. It's been a struggle, and this is what's happening with Social Security as well, because the documentation is not taking place as it should. So the independent doctors that see Cody, the rheumatologist, the internal medicine doctors, and the other doctors that see him, sometimes even have struggle to educate the specialists, and the specialists will just end up referring Cody back to the internal medicine doctors or his primary medicine doctors. And so we're left dealing with a just one of the worst blood clotting disorders that's ever seen, and having to stumble through it. It is exacerbated by the spike protein. So it's not a normal antiphospholipid syndrome. It is one of the worst manifestations because it's called triple positive, meaning that all of his antibodies are involved that cause the blood to clot, or to you have proteins that keep your blood from clotting, or to clot, like in order to form a scar. So his proteins that cause his blood not to clot are completely attacked, and it causes his blood to clot without control. So it's an uncontrolled blood clotting for him. It's a very different picture than many other vaccine injured. And then on top of that, we have the spike protein that's higher than can be measured in a lab. But he also had what's called nucleocapsid testing, and he's had that done several times at this point, and it shows definitively that he was never exposed to natural COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 infection. So his case is extremely well documented. He had genetic testing that showed that he doesn't have a genetic blood clotting disorder, and he had extensive testing. His case is one of the most well documented.
Is Cody in the car with you right now?
Yeah, he's here.
Which hospital are you guys on your way to?
Honestly, we were talking about that because we've been to several hospitals, and each one will just end up making him comfortable and sending him home. And we're trying to.
Each hospital is prone to its own barbarism.
Yeah, just like in the congressional report, it says that they're, essentially the wording is marginalized. They're dismissed. So,
Which
we're just.
county? Which county
Oh,
would if you chose a hospital? Which
sorry.
county would it be in?
I think we're going to. I'm sorry. This is actually this is a question that we're just in the middle of discussion. Cody, which hospital should I get you to? I don't want to say. I don't think we're going to go to.
Never chance.
Yeah.
He's treating it worse.
I think we're going to try and get out to near the Villages, Florida, near where his doctor is, which is about an hour and a half away from us.
Okay, wow. So you guys are going to have to travel far outside of where you're at to even get to the doctor. Well, I think that the most important thing that I could do for you right now, and I'm feeling called. I really hope that this helps Cody and his spirits, but where this podcast, we know that there's nothing greater than God. So real quick, before we get into the origin and when this first started, I just want to ask you, Heavenly Father, I come before you today in the name of healing for the body of Cody and for his mind and his spirit. You are the great physician, dear Heavenly Father. You're the creator of all things and nothing is impossible for you. I ask that you restore every part of Cody that is weak and broken. I ask that you drive those blood clots out of his body. I ask that you touch him with your divine power. You remove all sickness, pain, and disease and fill him with strength and wholeness by the blood of Jesus. I claim over his life, every cell, every organ, and the system of his body aligned with your perfect design. Let every burden, fear, and worry be lifted, for you are his refuge and you are his fortress, just as you promised your Heavenly Father in Isaiah 53:5. By his stripes we are healed. You are the Lord who heals. I believe in your power and I surrender completely to your will. Dear Heavenly Father, let his healing be a testimony of your love and his mother's unwavering strength. In heavenly name we pray, amen. We're going to get Cody through this.
Amen.
We're going to get Cody through this. This is going to happen. They're going to come. No child should be vaccine injured. When did he receive 1 or 2 rounds of a vaccine? And when did you guys start to see his conditions worsen?
Mm-hmm. So he received 2. Dad and I did not want him to get the shot. He was, obviously a lot of these college-age kids were told that, that they were helping society. In my case, I have autoimmune disorder, and he was actually told by a doctor that if he did not get the shot and he brought home COVID, that he would kill me, his mother, not grandma, but his own mother. And so, he's a good kid. He's always been a good kid, and he felt like he was doing the right thing. So it was in 2021, he got 2 shots. The first shot, he just had a few aches and pains. The second shot, he developed significant rashes on his arms, and they were bothering me. It was clear that something was going on. He didn't know exactly what was going on. We were in the middle of packing up and moving. We were going to go to Arizona from Florida. And so he was moving boxes and getting into, dust and things like that. So I had him go to the dermatologist that he had gone to for contact dermatitis before. They didn't even take him into the back, because it was in the midst of COVID. And they said, hang on, and they came out with a bag of just samples of lotion for him, and that was that. Within a couple of weeks, he had severe pain and, a difficulty walking on his right leg and behind the right knee, and I wanted him to go to the hospital, and he was terrified of bringing home COVID. I got him a knee brace, thinking that maybe it would help. He was running in the gym 5 miles a day, 5 days a week. So what is that, 25 miles a week? And so he thought maybe between that and helping us move that he had pulled something. And then within weeks he was hospitalized with what's called catastrophic antiphospholipid syndrome. The hospital didn't recognize what it was. He had massive pulmonary embolism in the left lung. He had lesser pulmonary emboli in the right lung. He had leaky heart valve, left ventricular hypertrophy. He had complete right side weakness. He could no longer open a water bottle on the right side. He could not walk on his own. And the hospital was trying to tell me it was COVID. And even if people look at my Substack, they'll see I have documented his medical records, where even though he tested negative multiple times for all virus, all bacteria, and especially COVID-19, they marked on his records. And I did send a link to you guys for that. That he was marked as being hospitalized for COVID-19, which he had the nucleocapsid test later that covered that period of time. It showed that he definitively never had COVID-19. So it was a fight. It was a push to try to get him treated for what was going on, which was the autoimmune blood clotting disorder that he was left with, and now is peer reviewed and published. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going to cry, so I'm holding that back.
It's okay to cry on the show. If you need to cry, you can cry on the show. You're crying for your son. I get it. It is absolutely the worst. It's the worst thing. Yeah. We if you want to unstrap the rubber band, you could bring in, or we can hear your voice if you want to say something, Cody.
I don't really want to be seen right now. I'm really sick. But when I was there, it was an imaging technician, but really he fought the doctor on looking into what was going on with me harder, because he noticed that I was in too much pain to just lay down on a table to get my scans done without painkiller. And he said there was something seriously wrong with my case, because I couldn't even get down on a table. I was in so much pain, and the doctor needed to order more scans and do a more thorough checkup than he was willing to do.
This would be to find the pulmonary embolisms, and they actually even missed an infarct in the lung and a partially collapsed lung, and they had discharged him after 6 days with the additional injury to his lung, and we had to come back after 2 days, and still they kept on trying to tell us this was COVID, he'll get over it, he's young. And so he was hospitalized over and over again for a period of maybe about 10 weeks, and he just had repeated blood clotting, even though he had been put on blood thinners. And it kept on saying there's something more. This is clearly inflammatory. He had the rash. His whole system looked like it was inflamed. He clearly had a stroke. They just were not looking at it. And I know that sounds hard to believe, but this was addressed by Congress. They did a 2-year investigation into the mistreatment of the vaccine injured. There's 14 state attorney generals that also wrote to HHS Becerra asking him to investigate the mistreatment of the vaccine injured. It is one of the worst humanitarian crises that this country has known, but it is absolutely censored. It's completely censored. Cody's case is a punctuation mark of a huge book of people who are injured, but they're not getting the attention that they need. They're not getting the care that they need. And I went as far as to write a law and have legislators sponsor the law, and as far as being able to speak to my Florida Surgeon General and opening a case in my governor's office. But still, here we are with no help. So I'm bumping it up to the national level and reaching out to Congress members and Senate members in the U.S. House and Senate, and I will be successful. I will have these people get help. I know I will.
100%. 100%. You guys are going to get through it. You guys are going to get through this and be on the top of it. I also wanted to ask you, could you go a little bit into, what was the first recommended diagnosis after he received, and if you don't mind disclosing, if you didn't say it already, my brain is wrapping around how hurt you are for your son. Which shot did he get? Was it Pfizer, Moderna?
Yes, Pfizer.
Okay, so you got 2 rounds of the Pfizer.
And it's Pfizer and that has the drug that can possibly save his life, and Pfizer will not help us to get the drug. We've had 3 doctors reach out and plead with them, please, will you provide this drug to save Cody's life? No help.
Wow. Wow. That's just it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad, and it's unfortunate. And we've got to get these bills passed to make sure that these conglomerates are held responsible. If your product, if you walk in, and I'm going to say this, okay, because this is the Maha movement, and I know that you guys were on your way to a hospital, and I know that you guys just pulled over wherever you could pull over, but I see behind you that there's a Taco Bell parking lot. That is not part of the Maha movement. We do not endorse Taco Bell. But if you walked into Taco Bell right now and you got Cody a taco and he dropped dead, you would be able to sue Taco Bell. The fact that Pfizer and all of these big companies, they have immunity, right? They have such protection from things like this. You would think that they would want to come forward and say, hey, something changed. We know that we were responsible in part for what has happened. We want to go back and we want to rectify this. And that's not what you're getting. You're getting stonewalled, and you're being told by your insurance companies, delay, delay, deny, delay, delay, deny. And here you are with your son who you're saying is terminally ill, and he's not getting better. And he's been dealing with this since 2001. So going on
Yes.
4 years.
Yeah, 2001, Cody.
2021.
I'm sorry, 2001. I'm sorry. He just
2021.
caught the mistake.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
2021.
Okay.
I was going to say, because, 2001. Oh, I was still in high school.
Yeah, so 2021, since he's been dealing with it, and, like the doctor we were taking him to today, and we're going to reroute and go to the hospital instead, what they say is, the medications that he's on now are just kicking the can down the road. He needs an immune modulating drug to stop the antiphospholipid antibodies. He has antibodies higher than can be measured in the lab, and he has, his case is so significant. People can have just one antibody or two or three antibodies, phospholipid antibodies. There's different names for them, but I'll just simplify it like that. He has all three, and then all three are pegged higher than can be measured in the lab. And then in addition to that, we've got the spike antibodies that are also higher than can be measured in the lab. It complicates things. And so I don't know if you know, but so I do medical research on the adverse events, and my research is used in 2,200 cases in Germany in litigation against Pfizer, and it's also translated into German. And then Ken Paxton's team with the CID reached out to me for that research that I do. And then, also it's been submitted to other states in testimonies and hearing. And so I've done quite a bit to help this movement, but also to do the research and figure out what was going on with Cody and beg the doctors to please do the testing. And, lo and behold, when the testing that I asked for was done, there it was. There was the blood clotting disorder, the autoimmune blood clotting disorder. And so I'm the medical researcher on his published and peer-reviewed case study. So we actually have some authority in what we're saying to Pfizer and presenting information that they didn't disclose. The work on the lipids and the blood clotting disorders and the autoimmune disorders, connective tissue disorders, is well known before the pandemic. We weren't told that. Cody wasn't told that. If we would have known, if we could have been able to point to something to Cody, because we're trying to say, look, here's some data. But the problem is that the higher ups in Pfizer and even our public health were busy telling everybody it was safe and effective. The things that we did find, they were saying, no, it can't be that, because we've tweaked it this way or we've tweaked it that way. Well, the fact of the matter is, the toxins are still in there that were known pre-pandemic, and that's what my work is on.
So Heather, what we're going to do is I'm just going to wrap this. I'm going to wrap this up. But what I want to do is I'm being I'm being called, I prayed for your son, and I don't know where you are, but I want to offer you two things. Okay. I don't trust the hospital system that you'd be taking your son to anyways, but if there is an emergency and he has to go to a doctor, please bring him there. But if you can make it to Palm Beach County, there is a place off of Village Boulevard called the Longevity Center. I would, the Maha Mike team would like to offer to pay for your son's EBU therapy. So if he wants to go do the ozone blood therapy, I will arrange to make that happen. I will go there and I'd like to shake your son's hand. That's in Palm Beach County, Florida. And I'm also going to be interviewing another wonderful person. His name is Dr. Peter McCullough, and he's the founder of the Wellness Company. I would like to also send out spike support protocol and get some
Sure.
supplements to help your son
Yeah.
get what's inside of his body out. Okay, so when we get off the phone,
I know Dr.
stay
McCullough.
on. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
know
when
Dr.
you stay,
McCullough.
when
He knows Cody's case.
okay, so we're gonna get you guys some spike support, and if you want to go do the ozone therapy, you can reach out to Elizabeth.
Hello?
She might have.
Sorry.
Yep, I said
No, it's
no.
here.
That's not a
I'm here.
problem. When the phones ring in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you in the back office, and then make sure you get from Elizabeth, one of our producers. Just make sure you get her contact information. And if you do decide to go, but that's all the time we have for today. I'm going to bring in my next guest, and we're going to continue to pray for you and Cody.
Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks? Well, here's something you won't hear about on CNBC. There's a unique way to collect royalty checks directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches. You simply collect checks month after month. The best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Litchenfield, breaks down what he believes is the #1 loyalty royal play for 2025. So visit LindellOilBoom.com now to learn more. That's LindellOilBoom.com. That's LindellOilBoom.com now to learn more. That's LindellOilBoom.com. Stop buying oil stocks and start collecting oil royalty checks instead.
My heart is still just pounding for Heather and her son, Cody. What a horrible, horrible thing that happened to that child. From vaccine-injured child to millions of vaccinated children every year here in the United States. And with heart disease on the rise, there's no better time than to bring in one of the leading cardiologists in the world, Dr. Peter McCullough.
Thank you.
No, thank you for carving some time out of your day. I can see you've only got a few rewards there behind you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you were able to catch the end of that, but man, that boy seems like the past 4 years he's been fighting. He's been fighting for his life, and the amount of medical conditions that child has had, as a father, it only brings tears to your eyes. She said there towards the very end, that she's reached out to a lot of people. I know that they got a phone call from RFK. Just so sad, that this is happening to people, and it just gets so suppressed. I have a feeling there's hundreds of thousands of Codys that are out there, and their stories, just like the Epstein victims, aren't being told. It's just all censored. So let me ask you, Dr. Peter, what do you think we can do as an American society to really bring together hope for these vaccine-injured children and adults?
Well, first off, we have to go upstream and have people really understand the risks. Now, on my Focal Point Substack, we recently reported 9 million children took COVID-19 boosters in 2024. This is a stunning statistic because the risks of heart damage, blood clots, neurologic injury, autoimmune syndromes, potentially cancer with these genetic vaccines is unlike anything we've ever seen. My clinic is filled with vaccine-injured victims. So we need to get the word out. No more COVID-19 vaccines. And I think parents should look very carefully at the entire childhood vaccine schedule.
I know this wasn't part of what you and I were supposed to talk about today, but I couldn't go to bed last night when I read this story. Did you hear about those 10 nurses that all have brain tumors that work on the same level in a hospital?
You just can't make this up. On Focal Points, John Leake, one of the authors, questioned whether or not they actually took vaccines from the same batch. There's been a paper by Bustos and Anguis indicating the COVID-19 vaccines, are potentially cancer-causing from multiple mechanisms. So, this is a lesson learned. We should never launch forward with a brand new genetic injection without having it very thoroughly safety tested in preclinical studies.
Now I know, and as a leading expert in the field, I heard a lot, during the beginning of this pandemic, whatever these people are calling it these days. When you have live attenuated viruses that are in vaccines, right? They always tell, like, especially if they give it to somebody and it can be, quote unquote, shedded, right? They say shedded.
Mm-hmm.
They tell these people, don't be around the immunocompromised, don't be around the elderly, and don't be around the young. So when you have these 9 million children that are getting these boosted COVID-19 vaccines, and then they're going to school the very next day, or maybe even the morning of, do we need to be concerned about shedding this mRNA technology?
Well, first off, messenger RNA is not a live attenuated virus. It's actually a genetic code. So Pfizer and Moderna is the genetic code for this, the dangerous and lethal spike protein on the surface of the virus. And the spike protein can be shed. Multiple studies show that young girls, young women can have their menstrual cycle affected. We do believe it is kind of mass spike protein exposure to the population, which is not healthy. The spike protein, this was the part that was intentionally engineered by the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It's not a natural protein. It causes tissue damage, blood clots, and requires McCullough protocol-based spike protein detoxification to help clear it from the body. The body can't naturally clear it.
That's absolutely incredible, the research that you guys are doing. I just saw on your guys' website that you guys have just come up with a really cutting edge Finben ivermectin mixture, and I think that is so incredible as an anti-parasitic, but more importantly for inflammation. I have seen so much results of what Finben is doing for inflammation and ivermectin for inflammation in the body. Absolutely incredible. I did not know that number was 9 million, Dr. Peter. I did not. I thought it was maybe 3-4 million, but 9 million children in 2024. Does that not blow your mind?
It's mind-boggling. And the scary thing is the COVID vaccines are on the routine childhood schedule. These vaccines are nothing close to being routine. They're brand new genetic injections with no information on long-term safety, no information on how they're going to influence childhood immune system development. It was completely reckless to place these vaccines on the childhood schedule because the children are not at significant risk of COVID-19.
In fact, they're probably the least affected. They're probably the safest category, correct?
That's correct. Children breezed through the pandemic. The pandemic was serious for nursing home residents, those in congregate living, about 2.7 million Americans. It was really, scary for them. People in our age group, younger, healthier, fit, the virus didn't pose any significant risks. I didn't take the vaccines. I thought they were incredibly dangerous, being the genetic code for the lethal part of the virus. And fortunately, I think about 15 to 20% of Americans didn't take the vaccine, so they don't have to worry about vaccine myocarditis and all these other problems.
I'm going to have my producer pull up a clip here that we wanted to share here live on air. Drake, as soon as you have that up, let's run that Twitter clip that we have for Peter.
According to VAERS, there have been 38,000 deaths from these COVID shots. So under normal circumstances, the FDA would have pulled it. But instead, they've doubled down. They've put the shots on the childhood vaccine schedule. All babies are expected to get 3 COVID shots by the time they're 9 months old. The shots are still under EUA status for this age group. So under 12, they're not even fully approved by the FDA, and yet they're on the vaccine schedule. And according to the CDC, 9 million American children have gotten the latest version of these COVID shots.
Actually?
Yes. Yes.
Still?
Yes. Yes. 9 million. 12%. The concern I have with these kids. So we know myocarditis.
Wait, this is going on right now?
Yes.
I think we voted against this.
Yeah.
Correct?
I don't know.
You're very diplomatic. But I'm just stunned to learn that that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Could this be shut down?
It should have been shut down a long time ago.
It just it drops your heart because we've known for years. I have a really good friend of mine who runs a pediatric conference conference up in New Jersey, and he talks to pediatricians all over the country, and unfortunately he says like over 25 to 30% of all of their patients and revenues are wellness visits. And you and I both know what those wellness visits are. It's the vaccine schedule. And when you go digging and finding out that a lot of these people, they get their funding cut, or they don't hit what they call like a certain fee schedule. Right. And I don't want to call it a bonus because I don't legally think you can call it a bonus. But if they say, hey, if 75% of the people that come into your center or your clinic, if they receive 100% of what we recommend they get, then you're going to get paid out a maximum of this amount of dollars. And that might be from an insurance company. It might be from back end deals. We don't know what, all these fee schedules are, but it's almost like this. It's a pay to play.
Boy, I tell you, that's a very good analysis. That's what's happening. Now, a few general principles about childhood vaccines. The vaccines are safer when they're given individually, and they start to have problems when they're given in combinations. And so, for instance, the Japanese knew that the measles vaccine, when it was combined with mumps and rubella into the MMR, that it became more dangerous. So the Japanese took the MMR off the market and just offer measles vaccine, for instance, individually. The second principle is that vaccines are safer when they're administered later in life. So there's a lot of vaccines, for instance, hepatitis B may be appropriate for a healthcare worker in their 20s or 30s, but not appropriate for a healthy, normal baby on the day of birth. The same could be said to be true for rubella, just for girls as they approach reproductive years, etc. So vaccines, in my view, should be risk stratified. That is, according to particular risks, given individually, far fewer of them and later in life. And of course, it must be completely voluntary to receive any vaccine because no product is perfectly safe.
But they call it safe and effective. At least that's what we were told. We were told that it's safe and it's effective. And now you've got, Anthony Fauci, who's fumbling on his words, and says, oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I wish I could play it for you right now, but I love the clip that we played a couple weeks ago on the show where they had one of the chemist from Monsanto. And he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, glyphosate is actually perfectly safe. He goes, you could literally drink a liter of it. And the guy goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, 100%. And then he goes, we've got some here. And then all of a sudden the chemist goes, I'm not stupid. Well, wait a second. You just said you could drink a liter of it. Here, could you just have a cup? Can we give you one cup? Now, I do want to say, on behalf of the Maha Mike movement, the Maha movement, which is the people's movement, I've said from the very beginning, Dr. Peter, that RFK cannot make America healthy again. It starts with moms and dads having informed consent and watching what they do to their children, what they feed their children. Mm-hmm. I will promise them the vaccine schedule is not even as dangerous as the grocery store. And I will go on record saying that there is more toxins and more glyphosate inside of the food that we're eating and the processed food that we're putting inside of our children's bodies. It is the Maha movement is the mom and dad's movement. We now know that. I do have another clip that I want to play, and then I want to get your take on it because I am not a doctor. I'm just a lover of Jesus Christ. I have a wellness center in Boynton Beach, and the results that we're getting with children with autism are absolutely incredible. the results that we're getting, and we follow a lot of great doctors' protocols. We've got some incredible modalities that we're putting these children on, and I can tell you, we have 1,000 moms that would come on air right now that have been to my wellness center that will tell you something changed after they got the MMR. Something clicked. Lights went off. Something happened, and this is their story, not mine. But Drake, roll that other clip for Dr. Peter.
Trump and everybody now in the HHS administration, Trump administration, accepts that there is a cause to this skyrocketing autism. Now 1 in 36 kids, about over 2% of adults now in America have autism. So it's so vital to get to the root causes of these. And in my opinion, the primary cause is likely the childhood hyper-vaccination schedule now recommended by the CDC. Up to 32 doses of these toxic loads by age 2. And I say toxic loads because all of them have aluminum. They have all these chemicals. You can see the ingredient list and you'll be shocked. And so when you inject this much toxic burden into babies, into children, it's not unexpected that it's going to cause neurological damage.
Yeah, we just had Nicholas on the show a couple weeks ago. Great guy. Mm-hmm. Great guy. And, you know, I think it's a lot to what you were saying is that hypertoxic load when you're sending them 3-4 shots at a time. And, you know, for the longest time, I've always scratched my head about the hepatitis vaccine because it's from what I understand, it's usually either from sharing a needle with the drug user or from sex. So, you know, there's not these like drug orgies happening back in NICU. Why are they giving them? And like you said, if you do decide to get it, it would probably be way better to get it in your late teens to early 20s if you're working in a hospital and, you know, or maybe even if you're in the food business, right? You hear about the cross-contamination. Someone cuts their finger. If you're a dishwasher and you're touching dirty dishes all day long, maybe that's a better suited time to do it, but not at 2 days old, not at 6 hours old.
Right. In fact, studies show that the hepatitis B series given at birth doesn't even provide protection when somebody really needs it. Let's say when they enter the adult years with, you know, having sexual intercourse, getting tattoos, that's another way to get hepatitis B. And of course, through contact with needles and medical care, IV drug abuse. You know, the other thing to look at is that the fact that the body, evokes inflammation after getting a big series of vaccines. And the inflammatory signals called cytokines, they go into the brain. That's what causes a febrile seizure. Febrile seizure of any type in a child is at very high risk for autism. Paper by Nichols and colleagues from Europe show there's about a 40% rate of converting a child to autism with a febrile seizure. So parents need to be on the ball with respect to using antipyretics. That would be acetaminophen, ibuprofen, naproxen, to keep fever under control of any source. But importantly now, as Holscher and the McCullough Foundation indicates, multiple studies show the completely unvaccinated are healthier than the fully vaccinated children. Most recent paper by Mawson, the rate of autism in Medicaid recipients, 49,000 Medicaid recipients in Florida, unvaccinated, or at least by proxy, by no vaccine visits logged in Medicaid, rate of autism was 1.1%. In the fully vaccinated, 2.9%.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I think that here in America, we've got to do a better job of waking these parents up, and we have to figure out a way to get these messages out there, you know, like Cody that we just had on, the vaccine injured child, you know, right before you came on. And, you know, they're reaching out to all of these pharmaceutical companies, you know, the moms going to literally the steps of the Senate in Tallahassee and begging Governor Ron DeSantis, you know, in their case, you know, he's got so many clots inside of his body. I had just recommended him to do EBU. I said to her, he said, I'm not a doctor. I go, but I have a lot of people that I've seen some nasty things get pulled out of their blood with doing the EBU therapy, which is just basically it's like doing an oil change for the blood, and they're putting ozone and oxygen. Now, ozone has a very short half life, you know, a half-life, but when you can get some things out of the body, it's incredible. But I recommended to her to let me send her some of your spike support. I just became aware of what you guys are doing. And my producer had actually just sent me some of what you guys have. And I said, we got to get your son on some of these supplements and get him putting the things in his body to give him a fighting chance.
Right. So the lead product now is called Ultimate Spike Detox. It's much higher dose of nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. This is the lead product used by millions of Americans, and it's been the most widely used product for the longest period of time now, based on our peer-reviewed publications. Now, using augmented N-acetylcysteine, hyperbaric oxygen, hot sauna, ozone, those can all be supplemented. But the key thing is to get the spike out of the body. Ultimate Spike Detox has to be at the base of what we're doing. It's going to take more than a year for most of the people with blood clots to get a significant reduction in the antibodies to the spike protein, which is a proxy for how much spike protein is there. I have seen blood clots finally dissolve on blood thinners once they're on the Ultimate Spike Detox, and that's copyrighted in my name, for the purposes of accountability. That is, I'm accountable for this. And I tell you what, I'm on social media like you are. And if this didn't work, I would be getting pounded on social media. It's just the opposite. Every day I get praise and thanks for the Ultimate Spike Detox.
Well, and you know what? And just to give you another endorsement, because and I know I'm going to go out there and I will go on the record saying that you will not find a hospital here in the United States or a physician that is even allowed to use dark field microscopy. And when you start understanding what's in our blood, and if you start going in, and again, Andy Warburg had talked about oxygenation, how oxygenation is absolutely life. People will say that, cancer can't live in an alkaline environment. I believe it can't live in an oxygenated environment. And when you start looking at the blood, I do believe that every human being on this planet, unless they live north of the ice wall, right, that everybody's talking about, the big ice wall on the flat earth people. But when you start looking at the blood, I think everybody has a certain level of spike inside of them, whether they got the vaccine or not, because we are all eating, breathing, drinking. And if it's gotten in, you've got some great people that are out there like Dr. Brian Ardis, who's talked about how this could be in the water. It could be inside the food. And not only that, but your spike product works for so much more than just the spike protein.
Right. So just briefly, and I'll have to run after this, but the spike protein, as you indicated, is ubiquitous. It's in exosomes. Most of it is deep into tissue, so it's not really accessible directly, from the circulating blood. Although David Scheim, former NIH scientist, believes about 40% of it is attached to red blood cells. So it would be amenable to, ozone, or I think a more comprehensive approach is about a 90-minute session with hyperbaric oxygen, where you really get to, see the blood pool, multiple circulations through the pulmonary circuit. But we rely on nattokinase and bromelain, and then in children we use papain, because it does penetrate into tissues. It does go inside cells, outside the solutions. So I do believe the Ultimate Spike Detox for most adults, that's a base. And then you add other things to it to try to, accelerate recovery. I haven't seen anybody recover without spike detox. It essentially doesn't happen. Wow. So, I use ivermectin in selected syndromes, hydroxychloroquine, hyperbaric oxygen. Hyperbaric oxygen, by the way, appears to be universally beneficial. I think every study done, that's a very positive approach. But, of course, optimal nutrition, fitness, sweating's important. But the spike detox, we've learned, is essential. Without it, we can't find evidence that people are getting rid of spike protein.
Well, listen, we want to do something super special for you, Dr. Peter, and thank you for coming onto the show. And Alan Johnston, who's our Chief Technology Officer, Raytheon Missile Defense, Hughes Aircraft, ran 225 engineers in Washington, D.C. We formulated the #1 whole home air purification system on the market by combining photocatalytic oxidation with low-level ozone and bipolar ionization, and there is no technology that can beat what we do. I'm going to have Elizabeth, my producer, reach out to you. I'm going to get your home address. They retail for about $1,500. course, I'm going to send you one so that way you can have it. Same one that Dr. Group, Mike Adams, Dr. Brian Artis, and Dr. Ely all have in their homes. And I want to gift you one. I don't need anything in return for it, but I want you and your family to be protected, especially during the holidays if you have that sneak guest that came over that did decide to get the ouchie Fauci. And that's all the time we have for today on Maha with Mike. But we do thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you for everything that you're doing with TWC. Wonderful cardiologist, and I think that we have to continue to make sure that he is aware of all of the things that is happening in this world. So let's pray for him and support him, and maybe even get him a bag of the Cardio Miracle. I think a good cardiologist like that could use some of the heart health product. If you guys can see there below, we're always giving away the free plug-in $150 air purifier when you do subscribe and save for the Cardio Miracle products. We'll see you guys on Friday. God bless.